there, my name is Megan and welcome to my channel, or welcome back. Today I'm going to be doing the Wanderlust Book Tag. So I've been known to experience wanderlust quite a bit in my life. I love to travel, so I thought that this tag was definitely fitting because I'm starting to itch to go on a trip. So I will definitely put the link where I found this book tag in the description box below for you guys to check it out. But before we go ahead and get on into the books, if you enjoyed this video, definitely consider hitting that subscribe button as well as giving this video a like to show my channel a little bit of support. The first prompt is Secrets and Lies, a book set in a small sleepy town. I'm going to choose The Guest List by Lucy Foley, which is an adult thriller. And in this book, we are following a group of characters as they are attending this wedding on this secluded remote island off of the coast of Ireland. And we are learning that the different characters' lives were all intertwined at one time. They all have secrets of their own, and someone at this wedding will die, and they have to figure out who did it. So the reason that I enjoyed this book so much was definitely the setting. It is isolated, it is creepy, the waters around this island are treacherous, and it's just this rocky, dark island. No one is around to help them. It's very hard to get there because of the sea up there. So it definitely lends itself to a very creepy atmosphere, and I absolutely loved it. I do have a full review for this book. I'll link up in the cards if you guys want to check it out. Next prompt is Salt and Sand, a book that takes place in like a beachside community or beachside. And y'all, I had the worst time trying to find a book to match this prompt, so I'm going to have to go with The Awakening by Kate Chopin, which is not even like a happy book at all. This is a classic that was written in 1899, and it follows a woman who is vacationing / lives on the Gulf of Mexico. So a lot of the setting takes place as she is vacationing on the Gulf of Mexico at the beach, and the themes and ideas in this book surround her not being happy in the traditional roles of being a wife and mother, and she ends up entering into a couple of adulterous affairs with different men, and in the end she ends up committing suicide by walking into the ocean. So definitely a very deep book, and definitely one that is not happy, but it is the only one that I could think of that had any type of like beachside presence. Next is Here There Be Dragons, a book with a voyage on the high seas, and I could not help but choose Ship of Magic by Robin Hobb. I do have a full review for this book, so I'll link that up in the cards for you guys. But this entire series follows ships that are sentient, and they end up bonding with certain people, and they help navigate these waters in order to increase trade. And we are following a couple of different families who own these ships, as well as characters within these families. And we learn something about these ships that actually does relate to dragons, because dragons do exist in Hobb's realm of the Elderlings. So this is definitely a very pirate-like adventure that involves a lot of awesome characters, some really interesting magic, some great backstory that ties into the other books in her world. Definitely one of my favorites, and I highly recommend it. Next prompt is Tread Lightly, a book that takes place in the jungle or down a murky river, and I'm going to go with another Hobb book, and that is Dragon Keeper. So this is the Rain Wild Chronicles, and the Rain Wilds in her world are the jungle-like part of her world, and the river that these traders have to navigate is very poisonous. The water is not like clean, clear, nice water, so it is very jungle-esque. And we actually learn how the rain wilds in this river relates to the dragons, as I mentioned, is a part of her world in the previous prompt. Next prompt is Frozen Wastes, a book with a frostbitten atmosphere, and my mind automatically goes to Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. I can think of no better book that just encapsulates cold and winter wonderland as this book. So in this book, we are following a character who makes a bargain with this like ice fairy type being, and she gets taken to his world, which is just encumbered with ice and frost and snow. And it is so atmospheric, and it is so fairy tale-esque, and you literally feel like you are in this world because of the imagery that the author uses. So anytime I think of like winter and snow, my mind automatically goes back to this book. The next prompt is The Boonies, a book that has a rougher, isolated terrain. I'm going to choose Before They Are Hanged by Joe Abercrombie. So this is the second book in the First Law trilogy, and it is kind of like, I call it, or I think of it as the journey book, because you have the characters and what they learned in the first book, and they are traveling across this rough and barren and isolated terrain in order to find something and learn some information at the end. So this entire book is a voyage book, and the land that they cross, like I said, has not a lot on it. Yes, there are relics from the magic and the people slash magical beings that used to live there, but all in all, it's quite desolate. And this was actually my favorite book out of all of them, just because of the different magical elements and the lore that was thrown in there, and it just kind of kept me guessing. So definitely some rough and rugged terrain that our characters had to cross as they went on their journey. Next, we have Hinterlands and Cowboys, a book with a cowboy-esque setting or Western-esque setting. And I chose The Alloy of Law by Brandon Sanderson. Even though this is a fantastical setting, obviously Brandon pulls from, our own history. So you can equate this to like maybe the 1800s in America out in the West. And our two characters, mainly Wax and Wayne, are very cowboy-like characters, because when we first meet them, they are actually acting as constables out in this very barren part of the country, and they are the law out there. They are gunslinging type characters. There are scenes in this book and in this series that literally are like high-speed train robbery type of scenes that are so much fun to read about, and they're not only including their magical abilities in these scenes, but also like the use of guns and firearms that is just reminiscent of a Western. So when I think Western, I always go back to Brandon Sanderson's second era Mistborn. Next, we have Look Lively, a book that takes place across a sweeping desert, and my first thought was Dune by Frank Herbert. I can't think of a book that could meet this prompt any better, because Arrakis is known as the desert planet. Dune has no water on the surface, and these characters have to learn how to survive in this type of environment. They even have suits they have to wear that recycles their own moisture, because there is no moisture on the surface of this planet. In my mind, I'm just imagining these huge, towering, colossal golden sand dunes that these characters have to traverse, and the way that the author describes it just really immersed me in this world. Next, we have Wild and Untamed, a book that takes place in the heart of the woods, and I'm going to go with Sherwood by Megan Spooner. This is a Robin Hood gender-bent retelling, and I actually quite enjoyed this book, and as it is a Robin Hood retelling, we do have a lot of scenes that take place in the woods. And that was one of the things that I really enjoyed about this book, was being in the woods and being immersed in that type of environment, because in real life I absolutely love it. And then lastly, we have Wildest Dreams, a book that is shrouded in magic. And anytime I think of something whimsical, I think of The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. So this whole book is about magical circuses. I don't know how much more whimsical you can get than that. And then we have a sorcerer and a sorceress who have to fight in order to see who is going to control this like magic circus monopoly. And then we find out that they fall in love. So there is a romantic component, there is a whimsy component, there is a magic component, and the writing is absolutely beautiful. Okay, you guys, that is it for my responses to the Wanderlust book tag. Let me know in the comments your answers to some of these prompts, or if you've read any of these books and what you thought of them, and I will see you in another video soon. Goodbye!